Hello, welcome Archons to Phlox'em and this exclusive spoiler episode for Keyforge Draconian Measures. This is the 10th main set for Keyforge, 5th being put out by Ghost Galaxy, which now puts them even with the amount of main sets that FFG put out. But Ghost Galaxy has done a few more side sets than FFG did. This is going to be a pretty interesting set, though. Let's take a look. So, again, like I said, this is the 10th set coming out for Keyforge 10th main set, and it follows a storyline that was started with the Certain Darkness event. So if you've had a chance to see that event or play in it, the lore behind that is basically that the Logos Titans, the researchers there, have been opening all these wormholes, and one of the ones that they opened led to this force that they're unsure of, that they're just calling the darkness, and that force is now invading back into the Crucible. Now, that's where the darkness event ends off. You get to play with that to kind of, use the darkness, try and harness it, but you can also lose to the darkness, basically consuming your own deck. But in Draconian Measures, we have sort of the next step of that storyline where the darkness, we find out, is actually an ancient threat that was fought off by House Alberos. This is the house of the dragons that have been basically sleeping, waiting, but have come out basically again to challenge this darkness and get rid of it from the Crucible, because it's sort of an ancient threat that they have fought once before. And so they are returning now from their sleep to fight that. This set is looking really, really interesting. Big step back from kind of what we've seen from the last couple sets, where mechanically we're not seeing something new like prophecies. It doesn't seem like it's having anything too groundbreaking as far as like house pips or whatever. We do have a new pip, which is going to be the +1 power counter pip, which I think is going to be really interesting, especially in sealed. And then we have a few keywords that are going to be in effect a little bit more. But outside of that, it's kind of just going to be maybe a little bit of a simpler Keyforge set, which I think we're all kind of ready for. The question will be whether it is going to be competitive against some of the recent stuff we've seen. Prophetic Visions especially being very disruptive and hard for these other kind of simpler sets to interact with. But all that to say, it's going to be a pretty cool set, I think. Reminder, this is going in GameFound right now. We are in the last 24 hours of this as you watch this video. So if you have not yet, get over there. The numbers you see here might not be entirely correct. Of course, I'm recording this before when this video is going live. But the campaign is actually going pretty well as far as I can tell, or as far as I've seen. I think it's actually on par with what we saw with PV, which is really cool, because I think historically you've seen most of these game founds kind of go down a little bit 1-to-1, which part of that is because there's more stores buying in, and so the store pledges you don't necessarily see, but that encompasses more players who are going to be buying from stores rather than from the game found. I am one of those players. I still do the game found, but I do get a lot of stuff through my store. So if you have a local store that is interested, definitely make sure you get them in on this game found as well. But again, 24 hours left as you're watching this video. So if you want some add-ons, you want some of those cool house tokens, especially the new house token for Alberos, or you want some of those playmats or the foil decks, the full art decks. I don't know if you can buy the gigantic decks as an add-on, but whatever you want to add on to your pledge, make sure you're getting everything you are excited about, especially as you see all these spoilers that have been coming out on all the different channels. There's a lot of cool stuff we've seen. If that makes you want to change maybe your houses on your custom deck, makes you want to get a few more decks, definitely make sure you get that in the next 24 hours. I'm going to keep saying it. We are on the home stretch here to finish off this campaign and get this set moving towards backers' hands. Some really quick things about where this is at in the game found. There are some goals that have been unlocked, including the Gigantics, including the I think a full art now deck, as well as the foil decks. I think are just going to be, I don't know if you get a free foil deck or not, but anyways, go check those out as well. I don't need to know everything, because you're supposed to go to the website and go see what's happening with the campaign. But most of you, if you are here, you already know what's going on with this. So let's get into why we're really here, which is the spoilers. If you're not here for spoilers, I don't know why you're here. This is really all we're doing here. So Buckle up or leave if you're not ready to see spoilers. But if you are, let's dive into our first draconic measures. Draconian? I keep saying draconian measures spoilers. First off, we have Bastion Claw. This is a 4 power, 2 armor creature dragon from House Albaros. I want to start off by saying no one is going to pronounce this word right. It's a tough one. We're all very used to saying Ouroboros, and the OU before the B is a little bit weird for our English-speaking brains, but I'm going to say Albaros. If you think that's wrong, let me know in the comments. But this is one of our spoilers for House Albaros. One of the cooler dragons. There's a little bit that's weird about the art, but I really like the crystal dragon we've got going on here. It's got the wings, it's got all the colored spikes, even its teeth are kind of crystalline in there. I'm not quite sure how you fly with crystal wings, but you know what? Dragons are magic, so why would I even question that? That's as far as the art goes. 4 power, 2 armor. This thing is a little bit chunky, and again, with the power plus power counter enhancements we're going to see, and we've actually seen a lot of cards that seem to be putting those in your decks. So I think you should expect anything that is already kind of big to most of the time be bigger when you're actually dealing with it on the board, and I don't think this is an exception, but 4-2 is already a decent power. This one though, so we've seen some of the Albaros cards that involve capture. We've seen some that involve entrench, especially. Albaros seem like they really want to do sort of the keeping their creatures exhausted to gain a lot of effects. This one does not have any of those. This one is a witch of a different kind, which is your keys cost -1 amber for each forged key your opponent has. Not like the most groundbreaking effect, especially if we see a lot of taxing in the set. This can kind of just be counteracting that. But we've also seen a lot of things in the set that seem to be really punishing you for having a decent amount of amber, especially if you're going up to or past what you need to forge normally. So this creature is really letting you get that pressure on your opponent, force them to have answers for having less amber in your own pool. You can maybe forge a key with only 4 amber in your pool if your opponent has forged 2. Now, the forging 2 for your opponent is the important part. This kind of means that this card doesn't have as much value unless your opponent is also kind of staying in the game. So if it's a runaway game, you don't really need this anyways, right? But if it's a close game, this is one of those things that can just really put the pressure on. Again, especially if you can make this hard to move with getting some of those +1 power counters on it. If you get some of those other dragons with it that are maybe giving it invulnerable, I think this thing is really scary. It's at uncommon, which means you may be able to see more than one. We don't know yet if this is going to be limited to 1 index, but if you drop 2 of these on a turn and it's late in the game, you're both at 2 keys trying to kind of get to that last one, this is terrifying. And we've also seen some really strong key cheats in this set. So if you have especially the Albaros key cheat that has been spoiled, or at least I think that one was in the last game found spoilers, so it maybe has changed a little bit. We can't say for sure, but any key cheat that is amber based, it doesn't completely use a different resource, something like Epic Quest or whatever uses a completely different resource, right? Anything that is still spending some amber, this card just immediately makes it better. You don't have to wait a turn for it to be in effect. It is as soon as this card is in play, you have the minus key power. Now, we're going to talk about kind of at the end of this, my thoughts on these cards in Archon versus Sealed, because I'm really actually excited about Sealed for this set. I think there's a lot of cool stuff, but the big thing that we've seen with this set is so many of the mechanics, so plus power counters, the overwhelmed, and then a lot of the effects we've seen, there's a lot that feels like it is things that punish your opponent for being ahead of you, whether it's on board, on keys, whatever. I think there's going to be a lot of comeback mechanics in this set, and I think that makes Sealed really, really fun because you're not just going to have these runaway games. You're not going to have runaway board states as much. You're not going to have just crazy amber gain that you can't deal with as much if you have a lot of these sort of comeback mechanics. So I think in Sealed, this could be really, really interesting, create very chessy matches, and I'm really, really excited about that. So I'm going to try to stop saying the same word twice in a row to emphasize it. But for Sealed, and I think this one, especially depending on what we see as far as key cheats, this could be a pretty strong card either way. All right, so that is Bastion Claw. Let's get into card number 2. And you know what, folks? This is a Mars themed channel, if you've never noticed that before. I love Mars. Favorite house in the world. And you know what? I don't think I've ever gotten a Mars spoiler until now. We've got Zzz. Sorry if that broke your ear pods, me doing that in the mic, but Zzz Compactor. All right, this is a Mars artifact. Power, action, put a creature on the bottom of its owner's deck. And this is at rare. So starting with the art, this to me feels like very classic Mars art. It's got the Elder on there, which is interesting with this campaign. We've seen a mix of elders and sort of the soldier grunts again, which the elders won the Civil War. So I'm a little interested to see if we actually get a lot of that elder flavor in this set or not. What I've seen from the grunts so far seem very sort of combat focused, which I thought we were moving away from, but maybe again, like the thing with the elders is they sort of use the grunts for their means, right? So I think if the rebels had won, we'd maybe seen a lot less elders, but with the elders winning, it still makes sense to see a little bit of both. But I'm really excited to see if we get more of the elder side of things, sort of the trickery plays and things like that. And this one I think does go along with that. So art is really cool. It's a Martian holding a black hole. I mean, that's great. Dude knows he's in trouble. This human on the side here is gonna have a bad time because, you know, you're just breaking space and reality right in front of them, because that's what Martians do. They do whatever they want to show their power. So cool art, but the ability is also interesting. It's is right on the line for me of like, should this have an Amber Pip? I don't think it should be Omni. Should it have a play effect too? Like it's an artifact, so it's just going to be a little bit slow. It's just an action, so you can only use it on your Mars turns. Is it going to be too slow to be really impactful, especially when you've seen things from GR like Plan 10, which feel like it's just a whole board wipe in a artifact? But all that to say, I still think this is going to be a very good utility card because of really how the action works. It is not a destroyed effect. It's not yeah, I mean, it not being a destroyed effect is really the important thing, right? So you are putting a creature, so it can be your creature or your opponent's creature, on the bottom of its owner's deck. So as far as using this for sort of the obvious thing, which is controlling your opponent's creatures, things that have captured amber, things that have cool, really good destroyed effects, any of that kind of scary stuff, things that are invulnerable again, or they have all these power counters and you have no other way of dealing with them. This can remove basically literally anything from the board except for a warded creature. Just this can hit anything, and that makes it pretty good, especially again as we're talking in sealed. I think this is if this comes down early and your opponent doesn't have much artifact control, this is a very, very scary card. It makes you have to really think what creatures are worth playing, because you might have to play them again once you cycle through your deck. And that's one of the cool things about this is we've seen before mechanics where you try to sort of stack your own bottom of deck. And now this is doing one of those things where you're basically trying to do sort of a negative stack on the bottom of your opponent's deck. So you can take either really scary creatures and get them out of the game, or sort of the do nothing vanilla creatures and get them on the bottom of their deck so that their late game is just them playing a bunch of creatures that aren't really having an impact versus dealing with your amber, dealing with your board or whatever. So lots of utility there, but I think the really fun thing where people are probably going to break this is using it on your own creatures. Mars, not known for having the craziest play effects on creatures, except for some of the most crazy, like Target Nixodil. But a card like this, especially when you get to the end of your deck, lets you recycle creatures and possibly play them just every turn. You might be able to play the same creature. And so if we get some really strong play effects, or just a creature with a lot of pips on it, right? Because we do have a lot of enhancements that we've seen in this set. You might be able to just recycle that creature, just keep playing it turn after turn if you're kind of managing your hand, managing your deck well, and get a lot of utility out of it that way. You could be doing that early on. If you just have creatures with play effects from other houses, when you take your Mars turn, you just take that creature with the good play effect, put it on the bottom of your deck, save it for later so you have a stronger late game. You know, it's a very, very simple, has tons of utility, tons of ways you can use it depending on the scenario, depending on the deck. My only real critique is it is slow, and especially in PV, we've seen lots of artifact control. So how impactful can it actually be in Archon? Hard to say. In sealed though, I think this is going to be super, super fun. All right. those are our spoilers. So these are, again, the last two spoilers before the end of the campaign, unless, of course, they reveal some more spoilers on the campaign itself. So I think this is the last of the creator spoilers. Two, nothing crazy here. They're not like the craziest groundbreaking cards ever, but they're two cards I would be very happy to see in a sealed deck based on what we've seen from the set so far. I think they both have lots of utility, lots of pressure from Bastion Claw, as well as just a body that can really deal with a lot of stuff. And then the compactor is just that threat to your opponent and utility for you every time you get to use it. So I don't know. I think they're pretty cool cards. Art is doing all right. I think a lot of people have said the art for this set is looking better compared to some other things we've seen. I like dragons. It's very hard for them to not kind of look generic, which again, I like Mars too, and Mars, I wouldn't say they're the most generic, but they do have more of a generic look to them because they are little green men. So I can't be too upset about that. The one in the background here, I think that art is very, very cool. I don't know if I've actually seen what card that is or not, but still pretty decent stuff here that we're seeing, but really excited to see these two cards out in the wild. So that is going to be our spoilers. If you've got thoughts about these cards and things you're excited to see them alongside, again, if that Alberos key cheat makes it in the way it was written in the Game Found spoilers, Bastion Claw gets real scary really quick. Also, if we see any kind of recursion, so Geistoid being in the set, we could see things like BR Geist coming back. So Bastion Claw just coming back repeatedly, keeping that pressure on your opponent while you're not gaining too much amber that they're going to punish you with could be really good. So I don't know. They're not, these are the kind of Keyforge cards I want to see in sets. Maybe I'll say it that way. It might not make a huge impact in Archon, but to me, these both make for really interesting sealed stuff. Bastion Claw, again, I think, again, high level sealed looking for at this set. I think we're going to have a lot of comeback mechanics, things that like just overwhelm in general, right? If you have a card that wants your opponent to have more creatures than you, that already kind of makes it more of a comeback mechanic. Same with if they have a lot of amber or whatever. So I'm really, really hopeful that that makes this sort of like, you can be punished for being too aggressive in your play. And if you are really aggressive, your opponent will actually have a chance to sort of maybe catch up towards the end of the game. I hope that doesn't make the games too long, right? Because that's something that can also be an issue where you just start going to time everywhere. But having some of those bigger swing plays, not necessarily to like swing past and beat your opponent, but to be able to catch up to kind of even out the game after one person kind of gets really far ahead with like a big board or whatever. That kind of stuff could make for a great sealed set. So very excited to see how it looks for that. And yeah. Again, go to, of course, I'm covering up part of you're not going to copy the URL from this anyways. I've just put it there because that's what you do for these things, right? Go over to GameFound, check this out again. Draconian measures in its last 24 hours. Get in all the last stuff you want on there. Keep this awesome game going by supporting Ghost Galaxy and they're putting out of these sets. But again, if you have a local store that is on the fence or considering, definitely get them into this one. I do think the dragons also can just be a marketing thing, right? Like you're going to see probably more people interested in the set just by seeing dragons. Like that is just, people like dragons. They're pretty cool. We see them in a lot of fantasy, and this one kind of gives you pretty good taste of lots of different versions of dragons, from How to Train Your Dragon to kind of the more standard D&D ones. So thank you all for watching. Again, big thanks to Ghost Galaxy for the spoilers coming my way, and to all the other content creators who've watched those. Go check those out if you haven't. And yeah, can't wait for this set to be out, and we'll see. Maybe we get to preview it a little bit at KFC, and I will see you all there, if not sooner. Thanks all for watching, and we'll see you next time on Phlox'em all. Bye-bye.